Welcome to Bonehead Weekly. Oh, this isn't the fun size one.
No, this
Are
regular.
are you
Regular.
trying to
Why, how
emulate
you're
me?
supposed to talk, James. You're supposed to talk like this. Chad set a precedent.
I can't do that. I'll just
Do it all
end
the
up
time.
talking like Harvey Fire. And this is true. This is
Why don't
true.
you
I
try
can't
and
also
do it?
talk like that
Try it
because
too.
because this morning
Shut your cake hole and try to do it.
I got up, you see, and I had about an hour and a
14.
half where it sounded like I was in only the finest of tuberculosis clinics because I couldn't stop coughing and I was doing that wheeze at the end
Chad is now
where
having a coughing
I would
fit. If you watch the YouTube version, he's still coughing. Now,
where I would
Technically,
talk like this.
technically
And so I
not
can't
COVID.
do it or I'll start coughing.
So, Chad,
Yes,
when you got the croup,
yes.
how did it feel?
It feels like there's an elephant on my chest and somebody shoved a bunch of razor blades in my throat. So I feel great.
anybody else think he was going to say ass?
I, by the way, had
The only one who thought he was going to say ass.
I had the Red Death, and
He
I
had
still
the
didn't
razor
feel that
blades in
bad.
the ass.
I still didn't feel that bad. I
I
don't
was gonna
know.
say,
I mean, I couldn't stay awake. I would fall asleep at the drop of a, which is weird for me because I've got the insomnia normally, but it failed me.
I mean, Albert Fish put pins in his balls, but I never heard anybody shove razors in their ass. I'm sure it's
Which,
happened at some point.
by the way, is an important lesson, listeners. If you're ever around and Chad offers to play Go Fish with you, he means Go Albert Fish. Do not play with Chad. Do
No,
not play with Chad.
Unless you're really masochistic and that's what you're into.
In which case, we support your choices, but know that we are not legally responsible for you playing Go Albert Fish with Chad.
Nor are James and I going to remove the pin needles from your scrotum.
yeah.
Just not going to.
I'm probably not even going to talk to you if I know you've played Go Albert Fish with Chad. I'll just be like, you know what? I don't need that negativity in my life.
No, we don't need any more stalkers or Albert Fishes.
No.
No. So, real quick, we just got done doing Scarefest. We're trying to, while our friend is in town, even though he's clearly not here, get a second episode in the can so that we're not always trying to make the schedule. So, we really don't have a topic, but there are things I want to talk about. And can we go ahead and talk about a little bit about Scarefest? Because I had the best time, and I'm pretty sure you guys did too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will admit it was really nice. I hadn't been able to go for a couple of years, COVID being one of the reasons, and then my job being another one. But it's really nice being back. It really was. I had a blast just wandering around. I managed to control my budget until I took my children on Sunday. And they had a lot of anime stuff there, and it turns out my children will spend my money on that stuff so fast. But anyway, we had a blast. It was really my eldest participated in the scream competition, all of that stuff, and it was just really nice. Like I said, I hadn't missed a Scarefest, and then I missed two or three in a row, and it was a bummer. But it was really nice, and it's nice that the facilities have caught up to the size of the conventions that are held there.
Oh, that's true. I mean, I don't know what the number is, but I'm sure it's over 20,000. It was a bigger Saturday than last year, and Friday was huge, and Sunday wasn't empty like it was last year, and it was well, it wasn't empty, but it was busy. Sunday was even busy. I didn't leave till three something, and it was still the floor almost 4 o'clock, and the floor was busy.
No, I was going to go back and check in with the individual that we did that interview with on Friday night.
Boy
Uh,
Kaufman.
yeah, but I could not get to his booth.
I couldn't either.
I
Could
did.
Yeah, I was
not.
gonna.
I walked up with a bottle of bourbon. He was busy talking to one of the celebrities, and I'd promised both of those ladies who well, we'll talk about it later. But I promised both those ladies bourbon, and then one was like, "No, I don't want any," and the other one was like, "Yes." So I started pouring a cup there, and that's all I did. And I walked away. That was it. Because, and she goes, "You're a man of your word." And I said, "Yep."
Yeah.
But it was great seeing having that was the first time the three boneheads have been on stage together in a long time.
Well,
Yeah.
and I was gonna say, and even that, I mean,
It's the first live show James ever done.
and you
First live
hear,
one?
Yeah.
He didn't do the first two. You're right. That is the first time he's ever actually. And you know what, Chad? It was like he wasn't even there. He never said a word.
Never said a word. It was the best appearance I've ever had. No, but you know, and you read
He
this.
really tied the show together.
You read this on Facebook, but I do want to say, if you've never been to a Scarefest, you'll hear them occasionally say, you know, the staff, the people that work it, the volunteers,
Mm-hmm.
predominantly volunteers, are like family. And I must admit, it was cool seeing some of the folks because I used to moderate panels with Joe,
Right.
and I hadn't been able to do that in a few years. But it was really nice to see some of those people. Matter of fact, Joe, I was going to tell you this story, and I'll tell it on air. Literally, I had people coming up to me going, "Where's Joe?" on Sunday, and I said, "I don't know. I haven't seen him." And they literally went, "No, really, where is he?" And I said, "No idea, man. He's out there somewhere." And they were
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I bet he is." And I was like, "No, I seriously have no
What the
idea.
hell does that mean?
He's out there somewhere." And I was like, "Oh, well, if you see him, tell him I said hey." And I was like, "I don't think I'm gonna see him, man." I'll be honest, I
I
don't.
never saw you. I did
Not
not
on
see you
Sunday.
come. I
No,
didn't
no.
see
I literally
you
I went around with my
or your
kids
family.
and did that stuff. But it was just really funny because there was like that moment of, no, really, where is he? I'm like, man, I don't know, man. He's out there. And finally, I literally wanted to start doing lines from like, I don't know, Kerouac or something, going, he's found his destiny on the road, man.
I wish. No, I
He's
was doing
out
Return of
there.
I'll tell you, I was probably doing the Return of the Living Dead panel downstairs, listening to Miguel Nunez scream about, "Yes, I am Eddie Murphy's best friend. I was in his weddings." With the
Oh my
rest of the
God.
cast. And by the way, he told an interesting story. Did you know at Charlie Sheen's height on Two and a Half Men, when it was several $1 million an episode, that if you went to one of his parties, every once in a while he would just say, "Everyone gets a Mercedes." And I swear to God, there was a lady who walked around, got everybody's information because they all got Mercedes.
That's insane.
I wish I'd went to the party.
Well, me too.
But do you
But then
I
you
would
have to pay the
sold
taxes.
Mercedes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do you honestly, that's one of those things that you hear stories like that. And it's one of those things that I occasionally pause and think about, what level of insanity is our world at? That you literally have that. And I'm sure within a 30-mile radius, you have somebody literally starving to death, right? Like, that's a fascinating concept to me.
Well, and here I'll tell you another one. Tom Matthews, who's also in Return of the Living Dead, and a wonderful guy. He's friends with the great character actor James. Oh my God, I forgot James. What's his name from Return of the Living Dead and Poltergeist? I always want to say James Doohan, but it's not.
No, James Doohan would be
Anyway,
Scotty
he
from Star
introduced
Trek.
them to the guy that was sleeping on his couch at the time, who was his really good friend, and his name, he was a nobody that went on to be named George Clooney. And George Clooney, they cast asked him, it came up, and it's true. Gave all of his friends a few years ago $1 million,
And he paid the taxes on it too. It
taxes.
was $1 million plus the taxes on it.
Tom Matthews made dollars out of George Clooney for letting him sleep. I mean, but they were friends, because I made the comment once. I was like, "Is this?" Because I asked him a question about it after the panel 3 years ago when I made Scarefest 4, and he was nice enough to get Clu Gallagher to sign something for me and didn't charge me, which was also nice. Sorry, that's a stab at somebody. Anyway, it's not really a stab. Back to what I was saying. He told me that, yeah, no, I introduced him. They were friends because I introduced them. And I was like, I didn't realize you guys were that close.
Yeah.
So
But you know, it really is a
what are you
small
getting?
world in some way, right?
It is a
What now?
small world. It is a small world.
But I mean,
If
you
you
know,
don't know how
you
many people you know,
You're
especially
right.
if you do
It
the-
is a small world after all.
Yeah.
no, but I mean, you know, you get into this, and I'll put it in another way. And this isn't impressive. It's impressive if it's famous people, right?
Yeah.
But like in my little world as in my profession, I'm an educational historian, and it's really weird now because I've been to a couple conferences for educational historians, and there's not that many of us. So people will be like, "Have you ever read this article by Dr. Christian Anderson?" Yeah, I talked to him 3 weeks ago. We were at a conference, and we sat down, and he was like,
You
"Oh,
know
that's interesting."
Dr. Christian Anderson?
No, but you know what I mean? It's not impressive because he's not George Clooney. But once you're in a certain profession,
It
you get to know
depends.
people, right?
Even if it isn't George Clooney. For example, there were several celebrities this weekend, God bless them, who would not necessarily even say on the DE list, right? But for some people, they're huge. So today I was at a lunch and there was 2 or 3 people with me, and they were asking me about the celebrities. And you look at the crowd and I go, you wouldn't know them. I mean, I didn't get to interview Robert England. I have interviewed Robert England before. Didn't get to this weekend. He was in the green room, and I said, "Hey, Chad, come here."
Yeah.
Right. So you could see him and say, "Well, I've been in the same room as him," and walk back out.
I almost got mesmerized by the fact that the story he was telling, but I saw a Coke Zero. I'm like, I gotta get out here and give this to James.
It was a good Coke Zero, by the way,
We
y'all. I
should
didn't want y'all to think it was a great Coke Zero.
Well,
I
you're
really
my buddy.
needed it too.
Do
I really
thing.
needed
I'll
it.
do.
Thank you. Bless you, Chad.
Yeah, Joe got me to see Robert England. I got you a Coke Zero.
It was, and I'd been around Robert England before. I mean, not like close. I mean,
Yeah.
he did keep his blinds closed, but I felt I knew him.
But they ask me, so which one was your favorite celebrity? And I say, and I go, well, you probably won't know them. And then they say, oh yeah, tell us. And I tell them, and you could see that they don't know. They couldn't care less. It's the reason why I
Right.
don't talk about it at work unless somebody asks me about it.
Right.
I have to let somebody ask me about it. And then once they do, they go, oh, okay. I'm telling you, there's one hand of all the celebrities that I've met that most normal people will even know. And Chuck
Right.
Norris is probably in the top 3 of that's the one I get asked about the most.
Yeah.
Just because they don't know.
Right.
And who gives a shit? And I probably feel the same way because a person asked me the same question yesterday, and I said blah 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 blah, and they go, "You know who I'd freak out over? How do you not freak out?" And I go, "Well, I've only a couple times ever been starstruck. You just bury it deep." Oh my
Right.
God, if it was Taylor Swift, I couldn't do it. If Taylor Swift, okay, let me edit what I was about to say.
You got close there, Joe.
I would be excited to meet Taylor Swift in any way that she'd like.
Yeah.
I don't particularly.
Well, it's like
you know what
it's
I'd
like I
love
said.
I'd love to have a picture of Taylor Swift that we could just put on Bonehead.
It's
Yeah,
like I
like
said.
if we
So
could
we
get
could
her to do
catfish.
Bonehead.
Yeah, so they would listen to us and subscribe to Catfish, and it'd be like, well, that was Taylor Swift for 10 minutes. We're going to talk about Nightmare on Elm Street 4. Here's Mixtron.
Well, it's like I said. I don't think I get starstruck. It's just my general social anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, Lloyd Kaufman's made not a lot, but quite a few films that I enjoy.
He's made a lot of movies.
Yeah, and a huge chunk of them I enjoy. I mean, I watched Sergeant Kabuki, man, preparing for that, and I forgot how much I love that film.
Well,
It's just,
also
but
though he worked on Rocky, Chad.
bro,
I
I
mean,
know,
I watch Rocky at least once a year because it's Rocky.
but yeah, but I didn't get starstruck. The only time I've ever truly got starstruck was William Forsythe. And just what Joe said is who's William Forsythe? He's Flat Top. He was the cop in The Rock. He was Al fucking Capone.
He's 6 inches shorter than I am.
Yeah, I mean, I could not control myself around him. I could not talk. I literally stammered through the brief 5-minute interaction I had with him.
Wearing shorts and a headband and some sort of jacket to the VIP.
But I would not see myself getting starstruck next to Taylor Swift. I'd be like, oh, what the hell am I going to talk to you about? I mean, it's just.
Oh,
I mean, I would have questions. Like I could interview her. I'd love to know.
But I would,
who inspires her. What I mean, there would be.
I'm just
we
not.
could have a conversation.
No, I'm not
but
bashing her at all. She's a significant artist and should be praised. I mean,
I just pulled her out of my ass. Actually, no, that was the example somebody gave me.
Yeah, I'm just like, I just don't.
I wouldn't get starstruck with T-Swizzle.
No. And I think though, it's one of those things that once you do it for a while, right?
Yes.
I mean, quite frankly, for me, and I'm with Chad. I get a little anxiety sometimes, but I can get through it pretty quickly. And usually, quite frankly, I literally can sit there and be like, I met Harlan Ellison.
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna top that for me. I mean, literally, I guess,
Well, it's like I
holy
said,
figure maybe, but other than that, and it reminds me of
just meet Harlan Ellison. You walked away with a Harlan Ellison story.
Exactly, and nothing's
Right.
going to top that, right?
Did.
Nothing's going to top that.
and we walked away with a Lloyd Kaufman story, which is amazing.
We walked away. I've
a couple. There's a couple, Chad. A couple.
I was about to say I've walked, and you're talking about Harlan Ellison. I guess this is. I'm going to brag. I've walked away with lots of stories. Just sometimes people don't want to hear them because they don't know who the hell that person is.
Right.
Well, and I was going to say that's one of the things that. But I mean, I think it's one of those things that happens to all of us, right? And it's one of my favorite. I think it's on one of those movies that made us. Jon Favreau, where they're interviewing him about Elf, and that there's a scene where he's supposed to go off on Buddy,
Mhm.
And John Favreau was like, I just knew James Caan. He's James Caan, but I needed him to bring it to that scene and just be as harsh as he could be. So right before filming, he said, I just leaned over and said, just remember you're Sonny Corleone, and walked off and said, action. And he goes, and that's how we get the take. I reminded him of who he was, and he goes, and it worked because he came back later and he was like, man, you got me. It worked. And I think there's something to that. I think it's like anything else. Once it becomes almost part of your job, right? It's
Yeah.
standard.
Yeah, I get asked how do you do it. That one of the common questions is always not, and it's always I get starstruck by different people. Everyone gets starstruck. Everyone gets nervous.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, it doesn't bother me, and I'm able to bury the nervousness. But Chad has been around me when I have been starstruck and been nervous, and I just want to be by myself. And he's only probably seen it one time, and
Yeah.
all I want to do was left alone on that stage. So they brought Romero in, and I introduced him.
You got nervous when you met Carpenter.
I don't remember getting nervous about that.
I thought you got nervous when we were
I'm
in
not.
line.
I'm not saying you're lying. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
no. When you got in line to get that autograph, you talk to your wife. I think I remember you shaking about
I
that
don't
getting that
think that's.
poster
I
out.
don't think talking to her is going to help.
No, I know.
It never
But
has
I
before.
mean, honestly, I don't think I'll have the opportunity. But in Comic-Con this year, when you have two,
I'm going to have to
people-
bury it deep for Sam Raimi.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Raimi, who is such a significant impact on all three of us. And then you got Alan Tudyk, who again, I mean, ever since Firefly, that man has been, keeping me entertained.
Yeah, I'm a
And
huge
I mean,
fan.
I wouldn't know how to react to either one of them. And I'm like, I would just those are the two clear cases of me being starstruck that I could see. I would have never stayed Alan Tudyk off the top of my head, but Sam Raimi would have been. Who would you be starstruck by? Fucking Sam Raimi.
Yeah, I don't. I'm going to have to bury it deep. Also, the thing about it, I've thought about this too, is I never get to tell him how I feel. If I
Yeah.
tell him how I feel, then it wouldn't be professional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did tell. I got personal with Lloyd. I told him the story about watching Sergeant Kabuki Man the day of my wedding, and it just completely calming me. I mean, I was all nervous about going through the routine, getting through the stage, going to the party. And I woke up in your apartment that morning and was trying to figure out what to do because everybody else was asleep. And I was like, oh,
And covered in blood.
yeah. I was like, oh, Sergeant Kabuki Man's on Netflix. I hit play. I watched it sitting on the floor and was just absolutely like all that stress just got wiped away for that hour and a half that movie was on. And I still remember to this day, our friend Kevin, still slightly hungover, opening up his one good eye, going, what the hell are you watching?
Well, Lloyd really took to you, and one of the Tromettes, Athena, hopefully we'll be talking to her soon, leaned over at me. He goes, "He's moved closer to your friend."
Oh, is that what
I
Athena
hadn't
said?
noticed it. Yeah, she said it. I was like, I leaned in and said, "We do our homework. It seems like this is going well." And she goes, "Yeah, he likes you. He's moved closer to your friend." And then I looked in, it had moved 4 to 6 inches closer to you.
I
But
mean,
you know what?
if she hadn't
on
wrapped it,
stage.
I would have kept poking him because there was a few answers that I didn't get the full thing that I wanted
Well,
to
he
hear.
was drunk, Chad.
Yeah, I know.
But
But
by the way, I do want to say he is one of those people that he has everybody call him Uncle Lloyd.
Yeah.
That's about accurate. I mean, if you had a slightly tipsy uncle who made entertaining films, that's Uncle Lloyd.
I've got to tell one more story about this. So first, one thing we have to. She'll never listen to this. Adrian, thank you.
yeah, no, that's why I posted that on Facebook. I had to thank her and Brandon.
I know, but she'll. If someone else is listening out there, just let her know I said nice things. We've all said nice things about her behind her back. But two,
Yeah.
our good friend, I'm sorry, James, our good friend Jared Greer, the owner of the Lexington Comic Con, the multi-billionaire 46 Corvette owning, once again, the son of a bitch who will never listen to this show, even though he's been on it multiple times, pulls me over and says, Lloyd's rough to interview. What? Oh, yeah, he can go off on interviewers. Really? It's like, yeah, I've seen him lose his shit. And then this could be fun. Either way, this is going to be fun. It's a good show.
Again,
Yeah, it'll be fun for
we'll
you
walk
because he was
away
good.
with the story.
Because you knew it was going to be me he took it out on, and it was going to be Harlan, and I would have absolutely broke. Unlike James, who probably didn't break down when Harlan, I would have.
I had a blast with Harlan.
My sensitive soul would have been like absolutely devastated. I would have gone home and never came back.
When Harlan was punching me in the stomach, saying, "Tighten it up so I can hit you harder,"
Couldn't
and all I
stop
could think
laughing.
is, I couldn't stop laughing because I'm like,
Which
I
made
have
him hit
tightened
you
it up.
more.
I
because you
have
couldn't
tightened
stop
it up.
laughing.
I'm just really fat.
A guy who had maybe 5 lines and Christine absolutely devastated me, never wanted me to do bad.
So I immediately, Jared's being an a-hole, but it's also true.
Yeah.
And I immediately find Chad because I know of his anxiety.
And Joe's such a
And
good
I
friend.
told him
Yeah.
everything that happened beforehand to make it worse.
By the way, can I tell a couple con stories?
Yeah,
I think I need
really
to.
quick. Let me end of. I said it went great. He loved us. We showed him the reason it went great is not only us, but Chad especially showed him the respect the man was due.
Yeah.
We had actual questions. We knew his filmography, and it went fantastic. So much so, and this is something I want on record. The man invited us to come introduce his movie for the midnight premiere in Lexington, Kentucky. And we will never get that back. Even though there was only 10 people there in the audience, but him, us, and the Tromets making sure he didn't fall over. We will never get that back, gentlemen. That will
No,
go
I was blessed.
dementia, right? And
Yeah.
old time and a death takes it away from us. Thank you so much. James, what are you going to say?
Well, I want to talk about this too because so most of you all that listen to our show know this. Joe does most of the panel work now. I've not volunteered because I never know what my schedule's going to be. And Chad and I tend to show up and hang out. We do the
This is
bonehead stuff.
I let Joe do all the panel.
No. What? Let me get to my point here. So anyway, we're not, Chad. I don't want to speak for you. So if you disagree with me, we're not as, let's say, public facing
Right.
as Joe is at
Right.
these events at this point in our lives, and then that's fine. But the reason I'm doing all this setup, Joe, is because I want to share a story, and I don't know if this individual listens to us, but I would like it on record because I can't believe this individual listens to us, or she would know better. So
I don't even know her name.
it's right after the Lloyd Kaufman panel. We're dividing up, and I'm giving Joe a little bit of no more of a hard time than I do on this show.
I was giving him a little bit of the grief.
Yeah, little bit of the business, giving him the business. Anyway, but so I'm making fun of him. We're mocking each other on stage. But when does this individual happen to walk by? It's when I'm giving him back something. I'm making some sarcastic comment. I think we were clearing the stage, and something about, I don't know. I'm sure it was a fat joke. I'll just be honest. And literally from probably 20 feet away, I hear, "Well, you're just mean to him," and I literally stopped because it blew my mind. I was like, have you met him? Do you know the things that he has said about my mother, about my entire family, about my sister, no, you're just the mean one. So I want to tell that story on Bonehead because don't get me wrong. I'm not a saint. Sure, I feed the homeless and hand out the Bible. Yeah, it happened the next day or on Sunday as well. I got it again about you need to be nicer to Joe. So I just wanted to say publicly on this show that no.
Me and told me.
What? Yeah.
Well, one of the Tromet girls called me a butthole.
For what?
A joke I made that I cannot make on this recording, and I will not make on this recording.
Was it at the premiere or during the panel?
It was at the premiere.
Oh yeah, that wasn't recorded.
Nope.
I told you to keep your damn hands off my girlfriend. None of us were really all that in the right mind at that time.
Yeah, no.
Well, I was going to say,
and I want to say it wasn't anything sexist or anything like that. It's just I just don't want to repeat it for this recording. No, it was nothing terrible.
And by
the way, she turned around and goes, "You're just being a butthole." I'm like, I want to go, probably. Yeah, that's what I do.
But she never met you. Was it the blonde or the brunette?
It was the blonde.
Oh, but she also gave me a little bit of the business when she said she was going to win the Face of Horror, and I said, "You're the second blonde woman to tell me that." And she got pissed.
Yeah.
Well, in all fairness, but I just wanted to say that because I think it's so funny because it really does show something about how these cons work in the environment. Because literally, the fact that people jump to Joe's defense, and I've known Joe for quite a few years now, and though I do give him the business,
A little bit of the business.
I would do anything for Joe except that, because I would do anything for Joe, but I won't
Do
do
that.
that. But anyway, I just thought it was funny. It's literally the only time I've ever had somebody from 20 feet away yell at me for me being mean to Joe.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a way to go about this because I'm not trying to be rude. I hope if she's a listener, I'm sorry. I just don't know her name. And here's another thing out there for you bonehead folks. When you walk up to me, I've said this on the show many times, and I know people in my personal life know this. I am terrible. It is not your fault. I know we have met before. I know someone has introduced you to me before. I do not hold anything against you. It is nothing against you. I do not think less of you. I am terrible with names and faces. Gentlemen, please just back me up on this. I
No.
legitimately do not remember most people's names and faces.
No,
Because you're an asshole.
I think it's genetic. I think it's partially genetic because I am the same way. It takes me a long time to memorize people. And this is a true story, and I get it from my dad. This is a true story. When my dad retired, they had a retirement thing for it. And somebody came up to him and all this stuff and was like, "Oh, Jim, blah." Talked to him for probably 15 minutes. He goes, "Well, Slick, I'll still be around," and blah, blah, blah. And, and left. And so later on, I was like, "I got to talk to you for a while, Dad." And he goes, "Oh, yeah, he's a good guy, good guy, good guy." And I said, "Who is he?" And he goes, "I don't know. That's why I call him Slick." Worked with my father, and that's literally my dad always like that line. And it's one of the reasons I always laugh hard. If you've seen the movie Bad Santa, where the kid's quizzing him on, the reindeer or what are the elves' names, and he's like, "I don't know, Chief, Bub, Slick, all that." I laugh every time because that was the living embodiment of my father. He was terrible with names. Literally, he caused me so much trouble growing up because he would literally be like, take this part over to this is a true story. My sister was staying with one of her friends, and literally my dad couldn't remember her name, and literally said, "Take this stuff over to your sister. She's staying at, Gurley DeWop's house. The one." I took it to the wrong house.
Yeah.
I had no idea what he was talking about, but I was like, "Well, that's normally she's been staying with her friend over there for a while." I pulled up and I left it. The family saw me. They said, and my dad said, "Just leave it on the porch." So I did. The family was sitting inside eating, saw me leave it on the porch. She didn't say anything. I got back and I dropped it off. My sister called 45 minutes later going, "I never got my stuff." So I dropped it off. Yeah, anyway. So no. So whatever that is, that's I suck at it too.
Just
So
not good at it.
just call me on it. I'll be embarrassed. It's fine. I'd rather be embarrassed than know who you are. After good 6 to 7 years, so I'll remember, I promise.
So
Isn't that right, Carl and Jake?
PJ Starks is an independent film producer out of Western Kentucky. And I messaged him the other day on his Facebook as we're getting ready for his independent panel the 2 or 3 days before it was happening. And I said, "Mr. Starks, I'm Joe Lewis, blah, 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 blah. I know who you are. You messaged me, blah, blah, blah." I never make an assumption that you know who I am either. Just introduce yourself to me. Go,
Yep.
"Hey, blah, blah, blah." And then I will say the same. "Of course, I know who you are, Jim Bob or Slick." Now,
Yep.
I just want to say I had a really good time at Scarefest. Had a really good time hanging out with my friends. Well, we only got to hang out Friday night because
Which is all right for fighting.
yeah, that's what I hear. But Chad, you watched a couple before we wrap. You watched a couple of movies you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I'll mention one because I have not got genuinely scared from a horror movie
Yeah.
in years. The last movie that actually frightened me was The Ring. That whole scene where they find the girl and her face dropped.
Yeah, mine
Terrified.
comes out of the TV, but yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, that didn't the girl dropping, that terrified me. I actually physically screamed last night. A jump scare got me so damn well that I screamed out loud and almost woke up my entire family.
Halloween Ends.
No. The Black Phone.
It's good.
It is really good.
Here's why the black phone's good. The ending. He brings it back. It is so well thought out and written, is it not?
Yeah, and this is one of those movies where I genuinely enjoyed it because I had no idea what it was. I did it. I avoided all the publicity. I try when I watch movies not to know anything going in because it ruins it for me. If I do, I like to be caught off guard. And I had no idea what the black phone was other than there's a boy trapped in a basement and there's a black phone.
I jumped a couple times. I didn't scream. I saw it in the theater. But that is his name Finney? I can't remember. It's been
Finney.
Finney. It's at the first of the movie. It's in Finney's arm is mint.
Yeah.
I mean, they set it up from the first 2 minutes.
Yep. I mean, that movie, it got me once, and on top of that, I really enjoyed it. Ethan Hawke is great as always. I don't know what this
was masturbating, by the way.
It does. It really does.
What? Sorry, no, I've got an arm issue. Sorry.
No, it really
arm
did.
Issues, it's on your penis.
No, it's up here. You want me to do it up here? I just got to rotate my rotate.
No,
that's what I was worried about for those 6 months, those 6 or 7 months where I was having continual stomach issues, and I had to keep rubbing my stomach just to sit still.
You were worried that you wouldn't be able to masturbate?
No, that it looks like I was masturbating while during these YouTube postings. I'm like, anyway. No, I mean, Ethan Hawke, man, I don't know what it is with this resurgent with him. I mean, he has these waves. He's one of those actors that just keeps coming back.
Yeah, he's really good at it.
He's really good, and that kid deserves a lot of credit. I didn't get his name.
The only thing is, and you may not agree, they could have cut 10 minutes out of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
There's about 10, 15 minutes there that's just a little...
That whole subplot with the sister, I felt like was not needed.
Yeah, I mean, there's just pauses in it that are just a little too long. I mean, they could have cut 10 minutes out of the movie and it'd have been sleek and you'd have been, oh my God, I got to watch that again. I love the black phone. Really did.
I really did too. Yeah. And kudos to Scott Derrickson.
Yeah, Scott Derrickson.
He made me scream. A movie has not done that in almost 2 decades. And I mean, even no, retake that. The Ring didn't make me scream. It just made me jump.
Yeah.
This actually made me produce a vocal response, and a horror movie hasn't done that since The Shocker.
So The
when
Ring,
it first came out.
For those of you that need a hip hop translation, for Chad, The Ring equals Daddy Mac, because Daddy Mac will make you jump.
Yeah, so yeah, I had to talk about that briefly just because I watched it last night and I was not, and I knew how the movie was shot. I knew the beats, but that one of the jump scares just absolutely got me. So,
by the way, I'm assuming this will probably air after Halloween, correct?
Yeah, probably. Oh, I'm so sorry. We're late at night.
Yeah, I'm sick and falling asleep right now in this chair.
We're wrapping it up in a minute.
Well, I was gonna say, and that's what I want to do. So, the one thing I wanted to mention, and I don't think I've ever mentioned on the show before, but I've read it, and it's something that as we approach the holiday seasons, and if you like horror and mystery and things like that, there's a book I want to mention because I'm a big fan. We've talked about it before. We've done an entire episode dedicated to A Christmas Carol.
Right.
There is a book that's written, the pen name on it is, let me make sure I get this right, L.J. Oliver, which is actually the combination of 2 authors. It was going to be a series. Sadly, one of the co-authors passed away. I don't know if they'll ever continue the series or not, but the first book that was released is called The Humbug Murders.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an Ebenezer Scrooge mystery, and it's set before the events of The Christmas Carol. If you're a fan of Dickens, it's a lot of fun. And I'm not a huge fan of Charles Dickens, actually. But what really makes this, if you're looking for a good, cozy, get in front of a fireplace, sit down, chill, cover up with a blanket, read this book. It is a mystery, but it also has a lot of supernatural elements in it. And it really is about a young Ebenezer Scrooge. You find out a little bit about what's going on. It has a bunch of characters from other Dickens works. If you are a Dickens fan, you'll make more connections than I will. A couple of them I knew, like Miss Havisham's mentioned from Great Expectations. A couple other. Anyway, I say all of that to say it's a really effective, if you like A Christmas Carol, murder mystery. And basically the setup is he gets to his counting house one day and he's told if you don't solve this murder, he sees a vision, a spirit. If you don't solve this murder, you'll be murdered within so many days. So speaking of the ring and things like that, it sets up the same sort of premise, but it's a really well done, oddly enough, murder mystery supernatural book that has pre-existing characters. So if you're looking for, if you're sad Halloween's over, you want something though that will still be seasonal appropriate, that has a little bit of murder, mystery, and mayhem and supernatural elements, check out the Humbug Mysteries. Like I said, L.J. Oliver is the pen name that it was written under. But I enjoyed it. I was really sad to hear that one of the co-authors passed away, and I probably will never get the second book because it was a lot of fun. So there you go. I didn't want people to be sad Halloween's over. You can still read supernatural Christmas horrors. There you go.
And Chad, what was the other movie you wanted to talk about?
No, we're good.
We're good.
That's going to be too much of a conversation. Another day.
Okay, can I do one more quick thing then?
Can I do one more thing?
No. Gentlemen, have you seen the trailer for the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Spectacular?
No,
Yes.
I just saw the poster. I haven't saw the actual trailer.
We didn't even talk about James Gunn becoming the CEO of DC Studios.
It's him and who else? Who's the other guy?
I forget the name, but he worked on Aquaman and Shazam.
Yeah, so I mean, in all honesty though, they're putting it in the hands of people that probably need to do it. And I'm excited because we all know James Gunn will support crazy things. And it needs to be
Peter
crazy
Safran. Peter
Thank you.
Safran.
Well, the thing is that James Gunn will greenlight every plot that has some sort of aliens coming here to take over our bodies.
Which is 90% of the DC universe.
Which is 90% of James Gunn's movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
By the way, don't you think we deserve a Slither follow-up called Still Slytherin?
Man.
Well, I don't know if we're ever. I hope we get more James Gunn Slither type movies versus it all being DC. Because I mean, I love James Gunn's films, but I mean, he's neck deep in DC now, buddies.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So I'm assuming we'll get Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but I bet that'll be his last Marvel run for a while.
Yeah.
Also, I just want Nathan Fillion to be with Alan Tudyk this March.
Yeah.
Oh man, if you get Nathan Fillion, I mean,
I know
you can talk to him about all his cameos in the Star Trek movies and Star Wars.
That's exactly what we'll talk about. We'll talk about his cats that are 20-something years old, and he doesn't even like cats.
Yeah. I mean, if there's time, build in a castle question.
Yeah, that's true. All right, guys, this has been Bonehead Weekly.